Okay, thanks everyone for coming along tonight for this book launch. Before we begin, there's a lucky door prize, which is of course a copy of the book. Has everybody filled out their name and put it in a bucket? Yes, no?
Yes.
Oh, they have? Okay. It's in the green shopping bag. So the way that tonight will go, I'll say a few words, and then the President of the Catholic Society of St Peter, Annemarie Mclaren, will introduce the editor of the book, who's here tonight, Mr Robert Haddad. Also I'd like to welcome David Collins, who's one of the co-authors of the book, and he wrote a chapter, I can't remember which one, the first one, Growing Up Catholic. David's an alumni of Sydney University and a member of the Catholic Society of St Peter. Well, I'm delighted that we're able to be here tonight to attend one of the launches of this fine collaborative work. I'm aware that the original idea for this book came from the Sydney University alumni, Mr Thomas Wall, who many of you may know. He's now the director of the Catholic Adult Education Centre, former director of the University Chaplaincy, and before this, an evangelical Anglican and a member of the Evangelical Union here at Sydney. I'm particularly happy that this book itself is dedicated to the university chaplaincies, and I thank the authors and the editor for that. I recall my days as an undergraduate here, as a member of the Catholic Society of St Peter. As a group, we attended daily mass, delved into the scriptures during one of our many Bible studies, served cheap sausages to members and visitors, and attempted to proclaim the message of Christ to our fellow classmates. Some of you might find familiar. In fact, I owe a large portion of my understanding of Christ and his church to the work of the Holy Spirit through the Catholic chaplaincy. It was Robert Haddad and Rita Azzi who led us students flying the Catholic flag, and I thank both of them for that. This book is a testament to the work of the Catholic Church here at the university. The majority of the authors are graduates of the University of Sydney, and significantly, the majority are fairly recent graduates. And many are converts from Protestantism. I applaud them for taking up the pen to both defend and propagate the faith in this way. While Ray Galea's book may have taken many further from the truth of Christ, we know that tonight's response may bring many closer to him, as the Apostle states, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Answering the Anti-Catholic Challenge, which is here and up there, is a book of significant relevance to Christians, and particularly to those here at the University of Sydney. I'm sure most, if not all, people in this room have come across the arguments against Catholic Christianity as they are presented by our vibrant evangelical Protestant Anglican brethren. Whether from those in the Evangelical Union here, Campus Bible Study at UNSW, Credo at UTS, or the Christian Union at Macquarie, or just in your day-to-day conversations with friends and acquaintances. I remember the time when my wife received Ray Galea's book, which is on the right or on your left, just up the front. Nothing in my hand I bring. That was sent to us in the mail. A good friend of hers, who was an evangelical, had been attending classes on Catholicism run by the Sydney Anglican Diocese as a lead-up to World Youth Day. I have no doubts that the sender was moved by a true concern for our spiritual well-being. I was intrigued. I expected that the usual tried and failed arguments may appear, but its cover with its rosary beads surreptitiously posed as a balanced discussion of understanding. I must say I was fairly disappointed. While I have no reason to believe that Mr Galea himself didn't make a true attempt at understanding the differences between Catholic and Protestant beliefs, as the front cover of the book states, his understanding of Catholicism fell drastically short. If I may say so, Mr Galea has fallen prey to the ABC of Protestantism, anything but Catholic. This book tonight's book, edited by Mr Robert Haddad, I believe succinctly meets Ray Galea step by step, and I recommend you to read it chapter by chapter. And I will quickly go through the titles of each chapter. So what I'm saying is, if you haven't come across Nothing in My Hand I Bring, there's no, well, there is use, but I think the best way to read this response is to read a chapter of Ray Galea's book and then read the chapter of tonight's book. And the first chapter is by David Colts, is here tonight, Growing Up Catholic. The second chapter is by Zachary Lemire, which Catholicism? ? The third chapter by Robert Haddad, Christ and the Mass. The fourth chapter, The Bible and the Church, by Daniel Miller. The fifth chapter, The Way of Salvation, by Thomas Warren. The sixth, It's Just Grace, by Glenn Bolus. The seven is that wonderful topic, Mary. So sorry, that's my own trope, Mary. The title of the chapter is Mary, by Kieran Newman. And the final, of course, is It Is Finished, by Thomas Kwok. There's also an appendix on the New Catholicism by David Schutz from Melbourne, a convert from Lutheranism. The title is Answering the Anti-Catholic Challenge, and I think the term challenge is important. What makes Ray Galea's book and this response we present tonight so important is that Ray Galea is himself a former Catholic. It has become patently clear that time and time again we find Catholics who do not have a sense of the importance of knowing the teachings of the Church. Galea himself makes this clear in his book on page 64. He says, theology is like the captain of an ocean liner. He gives us our bearings and steers us in a certain direction. And even a small change in course can result in a very different destination. I think all authors of Answering the Anti-Catholic Challenge would agree with that statement. Hopefully this refutation of Ray Galea's book may help many Catholics and non-Catholics allow Christ to become their true captain, with the successor of Peter as opposed to Calvin, Zwingli or Luther as his first mate. As the Apostle states, now I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions even as I delivered them to you. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ. To emphasise the importance of this book, I want to quote the last line from the foreword by Professor James Franklin from UNSW, and then we'll hand over to Annemarie to introduce Robert Haddad. And Professor Franklin describes it succinctly. He says, the work in your hands, there is a recurring need to explain in straightforward terms the Catholic story of the continuity of the Catholic faith with scriptural tradition. The work in your hands lays out that story with clarity and force. It deserves attentive reading by all who deal with the challenge of evangelicalism. So with that small little prelude, I ask Annemarie to introduce Robert tonight.
Robert Haddad is a well-known Catholic Christian apologist and is currently the Director of the Confraternity of Christian Doctrine within the Archdiocese of Sydney. Mr Haddad is himself alumnus of the University of Sydney, having completed a Bachelor of Laws here in 1989. He subsequently attained degrees in a Master of Arts in Theological Studies with the University Medal from the University of Notre Dame, and a Master's in Philosophy in Church History from the Australian Catholic University, which included a thesis titled The Appropriateness of the Apologetical Arguments of St. Justin Martyr. Mr Haddad was the founding director of the Catholic Chaplaincy of the University of Sydney, which began working with the Catholic Society of St. Peter here in 2002, and he remained in that position for many years. He has spent many hours leading Bible studies and apologetics courses, giving lectures, participating in debates, and bringing many people to a deeper understanding of the teachings of Christ and his church through his apologetical work. We are delighted to have such an esteemed guest presenting such an important book to us. Please give him a warm welcome.